When the Springfield Prodigy came out 2.5 years ago, it was one of the bigger releases of 2022. At that time, the 2011 market was just starting to flourish. So a major manufacturer coming out with a 2011, that was pretty big news. But in the years since the release of the Prodigy, the 2011 market has gone crazy. And every manufacturer and every consumer seems to want a piece of the action. Now, those changing dynamics to the 2011 landscape, combined with the fact that I'd never actually owned a Prodigy before, made me wonder, where exactly does the Prodigy fit into it all? Well, we are answering that today as we get hands-on with the new Prodigy Compact. Cue freaking music. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the show. A couple disclaimers. I am not well right now. I know many of you will think that I'm sick in the head. Debatable. I'm not well physically right now, so my voice will resemble that of Mike Jones. And this is about the volume that you're going to get from me today. I will do my best to not cough. I'm going to be sucking down some halls like these motherfuckers are going out of style. So let's go ahead and lay out what we're going to do in the video today. So this seemed like an appropriate time to finally do a Prodigy video. The thing's been out for like 2.5 years, and I've never owned one. I've shot a couple, like, briefly for a mag or something, but really never spent time on it because, to be perfectly candid, it's not really a 2011 for a guy like me. Now, I know that sounds like kind of an asshole comment. I don't really mean it like that. I just mean like, hey, I'm pretty deep into the 2011 world, so there'd really be no need for me to get a Prodigy. That said, I do think that, hey, after it has been around for a couple years now, it is worth discussion to just see. Not only we'll look at the new compact one that I thought was pretty cool release that they did, but also just look at the Prodigy in terms of where does it fall within the landscape of 2011s? Who is it for? Who is it not for? And look at it from that perspective. Springfield sent me the gun for the video. Springfield's actually, yes, when a Springfield product comes out, you're definitely going to know about it. They have a lot of videos that come out. That said, they're actually very good about staying out of the way. They don't try to influence reviews at all or anything like that. So they sent me the gun, but beyond that, I've had no real communication with them about my thoughts about it. So one thing that I would just highlight to you, if you guys are looking for any ways to support this little channel, I feel like there's a common misconception out there that I must be rich because I get to shoot a lot of cool guns. That is not the case. The 1911 Syndicate has historically been a real estate company. That's kind of what's propped up the channel and frankly allowed us to run a free channel for you guys. But the real estate market's really bad right now. Some of you are probably still looking for houses. So if you need a real estate agent, we would appreciate if you use us. You can just go to 1911syndicate.com. And if you're like, I'd love to support, but don't really have $500,000 to spend on a house right now, Patreon's a great way to do it. Even if it's the, $3 a month or whatever, it truly does help keep the lights on and definitely and just our business being a little kind of just all over the place right now. Each month is a little bit of a like, are we going to survive? So if you guys are looking for any ways to support, there's a couple ways that you could do it. Appreciate that. Okay, let's start talking about the gun. Okay, guys, let's start talking. We're going to kind of start with a tour of the gun, then we'll cut over to the range and kind of end on some overall kind of 30,000 foot views of where the Prodigy fits into the 2011 landscape. The Prodigy lineup is now pretty large. I think there's comped models, there's like, there's the new compact ones, there's the standard stuff. I mean, there's actually quite a few Prodigies these days that have come out over the last couple of years. And so we're going to be looking at the compact model, but also most of the thoughts on the compact are kind of extend to the whole lineup. So let me grab this bad boy. Let's just talk overall sort of looks and just thoughts in terms of the styling of the Prodigy. So this is pretty conservative and safe is what I would tell you about it. It's not memorable. It's not ugly. It is what I will call very non-offensive. It's like going to like date night at Outback Steakhouse, for example, where you're going, all right, let's go out. Let's do a dinner. Everyone's going like, oh, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know. How about Outback? Yeah, I don't love it. I don't hate it. You go there, and you leave, and you got would you get a fucking you got a sirloin. You got a sirloin. You got the blooming onion. And you leave, and you look at the bill, and you're like, yeah, that's about right. Didn't change my life. It's good. Yeah, blooming onion's not bad. Let's be honest, it's actually pretty fucking bomb. But Outback's it's safe. It's conservative. That sums up pretty much the looks of the Prodigy. It is very just non-offensive. The gun is not too expensive, but it's respectable. $1,500. It's a respectable price point. It is perfectly fine. That is the best way I can describe it. Fit and finish. We'll go there next. So, look, this is obviously a production gun. This is not a this is not a hand fit gun. So yeah, you're going to expect there's some slop and everything, and that's exactly what you've got. The fit and finish. The best way I would describe it is, it's fine. It is perfectly fine. It is adequate per the dollars that go out. It is perfectly fine. $15.49 MSRP on these bad boys. Let's go to the top first, then we'll go down to the lower. So the compact one comes in a 4 1/4 and a 3 1/2 inch barrel. I thought, okay, for my first Prodigy, a 3 1/2 is probably just a little bit like too niche. You're really in dedicated carry gun territory at that point. The Commander, with basically a chopped grip, I thought it was actually pretty universally appealing. Like, you could do quite a bit with this. You could take it to the range, bedside, kind of whatever you wanted. So that's the one that I did. These come with a bull barrel, as you will notice there. Pretty standard affair for 2011s. They also come with this 2-piece guide rod that you will see up at the front here. So I'm not a fan of this. This is just not a great system. I would assume this is done for the sake of cost. I don't really know why. Springfield does it like on the TRP, maybe other models, but those two come to mind. Basically, you have to put like an Allen wrench in this, and you have to spin off this piece, which then enables you to actually take the gun apart and do whatever maintenance it is that you need to do. You can swap that out. I have not. If this was truly going to be like my 2011 or something, yes, I would. But in my particular case, no, I'm not swapping that out. Gun does come optics ready. I've got a Holosun 508. This felt like a very good gun for a Holosun for me. These serrations up here, I think the best way I would describe them is they are completely adequate. They serrate, and they allow you to grip on them and pull the slide back, something that we do very often. And they're perfectly adequate. Cerakote finish. And, would you love to see DLC or something like that? Sure. But Cerakote, I would probably describe it as, that's completely fine. It is a completely fine finish to have on a Springfield Prodigy. Moving down to the lower, we've got a compact grip. And the grip is probably the thing that they actually, well, give a disclaimer, but it's probably the thing that they actually did the best. Just in terms of the overall dimensions of it, it's actually pretty decent here. So it is polymer. You should never expect a steel or aluminum grip on a gun at this price point. So it is polymer. In terms of the texture here, when the Prodigy first came out, I remember looking at the texture on this grip and going, I don't know about that. It's interesting. And after, a month of owning this and shooting it and everything, it's okay. Yeah, it's perfectly fine. It hasn't left me being like, wow, I have no grip, and it hasn't left me going, boy, if I carried this would chew the shit out of my belly. It's fine. And so, yeah, you could stipple that, you could change that out, you could do whatever you want, but out of the box, yeah, it's all right. 15-round flush fit mags, and it's kind of interesting. We'll be doing some other carry-related 2011 videos, but I've even seen grips with this exact same dimension get 16 rounds, so I'm kind of curious how they only got 15 rounds on these when I've seen basically the exact same size gun with 16-round mags. Not quite sure how that happened. I would love to see those B16s. Not a huge deal. Just, something of note there. I would also tell you that just lengthwise, this is the exact same length as like the Fowler Vanta 9 Commander. It's also the exact same length grip as the Nighthawk Double Agent. I mean, almost down to like the exact length. So, and the funny thing is the Nighthawk carries 16 rounds. The Fowler actually carries 17 just because of the design of the grip. So it's like, yeah, this is a little under capacity for the size, but I don't think a huge deal at the end of the day. It does have the shortened beaver tail on the back of it that I like. They did a nice job with that because this is designed with, EDC in mind. So they basically chopped this down. Nice job on that. Ambidextrous safety for the lefties like me. I've had no issues with the thumb safety. It has been totally fine. Haven't had it accidentally pop on or under retentioned or too tight or anything like that. It's been perfectly good. I would say, truthfully, I mean, if you just kind of look at this and at least my time on it, this is actually pretty well suited in terms of being an EDC 2011. It's an aluminum frame, so it does wind up being a pretty light gun coming in at 33 ounces with the optic and an unloaded mag. That's a pretty light 2011. And sometimes that can lead to a snappy shooting experience. So let's cut over to the range. Originally, just because of the illness that has taken over my body, I would have navigated some of this at the range and talked to you about it. But instead, we're just going to show you some of the range footage. And I'm going to talk to you about sort of my experience of shooting the gun on reliability, all that kind of stuff. So let's start with that. Let's start with reliability. So at the time of filming this, I've had the gun for a month, and pretty standard protocol for me is to try to get to 1,000 rounds. And typically that goes all the way through the actual filming day. So usually I'm at about 800 going into filming day. We wind up shooting about 200 rounds on the actual film. And so I wind up at about $1,000. And I know, sure, we'd all love to have 5,000 rounds, but it's like, hey, ammo ain't cheap, and it also takes a long time to shoot that many rounds. So as of today, I am at about 1,000 rounds, give or take a couple on the Prodigy. Pretty standard protocol for me is I run a bunch of different mags, from staccato to like literally old mags when they were still called STI, to Atlas, a bunch of manufacturers' mags that ultimately are just checkmate mags at the end of the day. And so I'll kind of run through all those different mags. Today is actually the first day that I had a malfunction, but I really can't get all up in arms about it because I was basically shooting the gun one-handed. We might even have a shot of it somewhere in our footage, but I was shooting the gun one-handed. It was cold. It was wet. I was sick. So, I mean, in theory, who knows? I could have limp wristed it on a one-handed shoot or something like that. But I had basically a failure to feed, and the round just kind of smashed into the case. So I'm going to chalk that up as a fluke because, like I said, in 1,000 rounds, that's the first that I had, and it happened under super not ideal conditions today. So reliability-wise, truthfully, the gun's been fine. And yes, 1,000 rounds is not enough to know the long-term sort of longevity of it, but I do think 1,000 rounds is enough to at least know, hey, out of the box, it's been pretty solid. Recoil. I would tell you the Prodigy is very staccato-ish. It is, it's just par for the course. It's fine. It's exactly what you would expect. I mean, it shoots pretty much like a staccato. I've been shooting this side by side with Staccato HD a lot. I'm not sure where this video will come out in relation to the HD video, but truthfully, it might shoot a little softer than the HD, which actually says more about the HD than it probably does about the Prodigy. So recoil perfectly manageable. It's a 9mm 2011. What do you expect? Well, on an aluminum frame with a polymer grip. So keep in mind, 33 ounces. It doesn't really have that snap that you might expect at that weight. The trigger is absolutely fine. 100% fine. It is probably, if I'm taking a guess here, I don't know, 4 pounds. It's not the most crisp thing in the world if you're coming from a Glock and this is going to be your first nice gun. It's going to blow your freaking hair back, man. It's going to blow your mind if you're coming from a striker fire gun. If you're an existing 2011 guy, you're going to be like, yeah, I'm enough, very average. It's nothing great, nothing terrible. It's perfectly adequate. You could tune it up. You can send this to gunsmiths. You can do all that kind of stuff. Wouldn't really be my personal thing that I would do with this, but you could if you wanted to. I've seen some pretty good Prodigy builds that people have done in terms of aftermarket gunsmithing, things like that. Holster fitment, perfectly fine. I've been running it in a QVO standard 2011 light bearing rig with a X300, runs perfectly fine in that. I'll also note, in terms of the light rail itself, most 2011s are going to want to take a Surefire X300B model with the screw. The Prodigy is one of the fewer 2011s that actually takes the A model, which does leave a little bit of slop in there. The B model, you can kind of tighten up a little bit more, but the convenience of the A model in terms of being able to pop it on, pop it off is also kind of nice. So dimensionally, that rail there will allow for the A model. Know that. Trying to think if there's anything else from the range in terms of kind of talked reliability, trigger, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think that about does it. Okay, so let's talk about where the Prodigy fits into the 2011 landscape and put a bow on this whole thing here. So summer 2022 was when the gun launched. And that was right when the 2011 market was ramping up. But budget 2011 options were super limited. Most of the new entries coming in at that point were things like the Fowler, the Vanta 9, like Alchemy was coming out with their high cap, roughly these timelines. I don't know for sure. But so those are higher end guns. And it kind of left this budget void of like, hey, Staccato was still the baseline. Like it was basically Staccato or Bull Armory. I guess Bull Armory really would have been more appropriately sort of the go-to budget option. So the Prodigy blew everyone's mind because it was a $1,500 2011 from a known manufacturer. No one had really done that yet. Like no one else had really jumped in the game or like, oh, that's a company we know of that's a staple here in the US, and they're throwing their hat in the game, and they're going to do it in a budget-friendly way. So the gun comes out. Reviews were mixed. They're all over the place. I mean, some people were saying it's like the most game-changing thing ever. Some people were saying it was horrible. I mean, it was just all over the place, right? I mean, it was almost impossible to figure out. And it kind of, for me, put the feeling out of like, there's probably some bugs. This is almost like early gen tech, where it's like, yeah, sometimes you wait for the next gen to come out because you just know that first gen's going to have some bugs and things. So a lot has changed in the 2011 market since the Prodigy first came out. And based on my personal experience, but also just sort of what I hear and just it seems like the market in general, it seems like they gotten the kinks worked out. It seems like these things are pretty solid out of the box these days. Like I said, one malfunction that happened today under less than ideal conditions, but otherwise, gun's been fun. I do not think that this is a cherry-picked gun. I just don't think I don't think that Prodigies get cherry-picked. I don't. I just think they get, it's just the luck of the draw. And mine's been perfectly fun. What's interesting is now the market has caught up, and what we consider to be a budget 2011 has now changed. And that's largely because of the Turkish market. Because this at $1,500 a couple years ago was like, oh wow, there's a $1,500 2011, and now it's like, dude, you could pick up a T-Sauce for $700, $800. Granted, I think the Prodigy is probably a better looking gun. T-Sauce did not do themselves any favor on some of the styling and color palette choices of that particular Night Stalker there, but it's like, those guns are fundamentally pretty damn solid, actually, and they're coming in sub $1,000. So it's like the version of what is budget has now changed. I think part of what you got to ask yourself is, how much of a workhorse do you need that gun to be? The general consensus, and I'm kind of leaning on the internet of opinions here, is that just because of some of the MIM components are going to be in the gun, if you're really going to start pushing this gun to like several thousand rounds, you're probably going to want to change out some of those internals. But beyond that, once you do that, it sounds like they're pretty solid. Again, going to 1,000 rounds, I'm not expecting anything to break within 1,000 rounds. If you start pushing these up to 5,000, sure, you might want to throw some different parts in based on, and I don't even know what those parts are, but I know there's probably 1 million forum posts and things like that out there. So I think you can also use the Prodigy as a good base gun to build off of. You said, hey, I'm looking for a $1,500 gun that I can send off and have $1,000 in parts put into it and trigger lightened and yada yada yada. Prodigy's pretty good play. You could be $2,500 all in Staccato money and maybe have something that's actually better than a Staccato, right? So I think you should definitely look at that. So the Prodigy is very safe. Again, it is very non-offensive. There's not much to love. There's not much to hate. It is very much the missionary 2011. It's not going to blow your hair back, but it'll get the job done. It's still effective. It's still effective, right? If well executed, right? Not necessarily going to let you down. It's adequate. It's adequate, And I think for most of us dudes, really, at the end of the day, that's all we're looking for. At the end of the day, we just want to know, yeah, that was adequate. We're like, hell yeah, not bro. That would have been the wrong term. Hell yeah, sweetheart. Adequate is A-okay in my book. Sorry, Springfield. This is what you get on this channel sometimes. So look, it's an entry level 2011. 2011 at this price. This is about exactly what I would expect. In terms of final rating for this bad boy, where am I putting it? I'm gonna give you a solid B. Because again, I mean, if you're going value per the price paid, I'm perfectly fine with it. I don't really have an issue with anything that has happened with this. Is there things that I would change? Sure. But on a $1,500 gun, I'm cool with it. I'm perfectly cool with it. So if you're out there, fellas, and you're like, I'm thinking about getting in the 2011 game, I want to go something more than a T-sauce, but I don't want to go staccato yet. Prodigy is a perfectly acceptable choice in my mind. It might actually be the definitive choice if you're trying to split the difference between super budget and staccato money. Like, the Prodigy might be your answer. So thanks for navigating the video with me today. Sorry for the little bit of a downer energy here. Just kind of is what it is. But I hope you guys are doing good. And that said, I wish you the best of success tonight with your missionary, and I hope it is adequate. Tell your families hello. Good night.